Taiwan's president lays out his plans for the country.
靠实力达到的和平，才有保障。
Is Taiwan ready to host tech giants? A string of blackouts has people worried. A firm friendship. Russian President Vladimir Putin visits North Korea for the first time in 24 years. Plus,
meet Taiwan's Olympic gold medal badminton duo who are hoping to go to Paris and do it all over again.
a warm welcome to TaiwanPlus News. I'm Betty Chen. Taiwan's president has laid out new national policy plans and will lead task forces to tackle 3 global challenges. Joy Zeng has the latest.
A month into the role, Taiwan's new president, Lai Ching-te, has launched 3 special councils, which Lai will preside over himself, that focus on national defense, healthcare, and climate change, all to equip Taiwan to face what Lai calls global challenges. He says that climate change is humanity's biggest obstacle and has reaffirmed Taiwan's commitment to net zero emissions by 2050. On defense, Lai spoke about protecting people in Taiwan against natural disasters and cybercrime in addition to military threats. Addressing Beijing's growing threat to invade Taiwan, Lai says he will only keep strengthening Taiwan's self-defense, including by ramping up civil preparedness, which will be a key focus of the new Defense Council.
台湾人民热爱和平，与人为善，但和平必须要靠实力，也就是透过备战来达到避战，而达到和平。空口白话不是真和平，靠实力达到了和平，才有保障，才是真正的和平。
Now it's been a busy month for Lai and his vice president, Kim Jong Un. Taiwan has seen Chinese military drills around the country in direct response to Lai's inauguration. And within its borders, the passing of a contested legislative bill has sparked widespread protests and prompted the cabinet to override it by forcing a revote. Here, Lai has set a tone of openness, taking questions from the media to address these issues, something that his predecessor, Chi-lin, rarely did during her 2 terms in office. And it's this open dialogue that Lai hopes will be central to the newly announced councils. They will begin meeting quarterly and include reps across the government, industry, and academia, all to provide the resources needed to ensure a safe and prosperous future for Taiwan. Patrick Chen and Joyce Zhen in Taipei for TaiwanPlus.
A power outage that turned a Taipei technology park dark for more than an hour is raising concerns over just how ready the country is to host big tech firms like Nvidia. The outage is just the latest in a string of blackouts to hit Taiwan. John Venturez reports.
Taipei's Neihu Technology Park shut down. For over an hour on Tuesday, the power went out after an underground cable connector broke. Only 655 power customers were affected, and around half had power restored within the first 3 minutes. But these aren't ordinary power users. They include the sorts of big tech companies at the core of Taiwan's economy. For varying lengths of time, work just stopped.
它是瞬间停的嘛，它不是像说预告停电这样子，可以提前准备了。仪器设备没有电就没办法运作了，所以原本一些实验的东西，可能就要等电来的时候才能再去做，就没办法上班这样。我们出来买午餐还没付电，它那个是那个公司的紧急电器，大概5到10秒就来了。 但是那不是台电的电。
The economy minister says this is the result of equipment failure, not a power supply problem. And he says blackouts like this happen.
我们发现呢，很多像这种跳电就是说它有一个趋势嘛，就是说可能人比较多的地方啊，或者是突然间增加很多人的地方啊，或者那个设备比较旧。
Equipment failures and accidents are behind several blackouts in recent years, from a nationwide outage in 2021 to more recent problems in the northern city of Taoyuan near Taipei. The state-owned Taiwan Power Company, or Taipower, says it conducts regular checks, but that the weather, the age of equipment, or maintenance issues mean blackouts are hard to avoid. But this may not be good enough for power-hungry tech companies. Jensen Wang, CEO of Nvidia, the world's most valuable company, wants to set up a headquarters in Taiwan. But he says Taiwan needs more power. It's not just the amount of power that counts, though. As Tuesday's blackout shows, it doesn't take much to disrupt the supply, no matter how much power there is to go around. Scott Wang and John Van Trieste in Taipei for TaiwanPlus.
Taiwan State Power Company says the activation of diesel and hydropower generators is routine as it starts shutting down one of its last nuclear generators. Taipower's move has raised questions about the country's electricity supply, especially after 2 recent blackouts. Taipower has responded by saying the power supply is stable and activating the generators is standard procedure. It says 4 new generators are set to come online before the end of the year, but analysts are worried that high summertime demand could overwhelm the grid.
当然就会很担心说，你旧的机组准时除役，可是新的机组其实来不及上线。那在这种情况底下，当然就是今年夏天供电的挑战就会相当大。
North Korean leader Kim Jong Un has vowed to support Russia's war on Ukraine and increase strategic cooperation with the Kremlin. It comes as Russian President Vladimir Putin visits North Korea for the first time in more than 2 decades. Rosie Greninger reports.
Arriving on a red carpet lined with roses and flanked by a military honor guard, Russian President Vladimir Putin is welcomed to North Korea by leader Kim Jong Un. It's Putin's first visit to the totalitarian state in 24 years, aiming to upgrade the deepening relationship between the 2 nuclear-armed countries. The United States is monitoring the visit as it raises concerns for Washington and its allies about North Korea's support for Russia's war in Ukraine.
The deepening cooperation between Russia and the DPRK is something that should be of concern, especially to anyone that's interested in maintaining peace and stability on the Korean peninsula, but also supporting the people of Ukraine as they continue to fight against Russian aggression.
The US is concerned that North Korea is sending weapons to Russia to be used in the war in Ukraine. Moscow and Pyongyang have denied arms transfers, but according to South Korea's defense minister, Russia has received 5 million artillery shells from the north. Decorated with portraits of Putin, the capital Pyongyang has been decked out for the 2 leaders' meetings. They're expected to sign a new comprehensive strategic treaty expanding their country's cooperation in security and trade. Ahead of the meeting, a letter from Putin was published in North Korea's state newspaper, saying Russia would seek alternative mechanisms of trade and mutual settlements that are not controlled by the West, and the 2 countries would resist illegitimate unilateral restrictions. Putin is referring to the Western sanctions placed on both states. North Korea faces the toughest sanctions in the world, while Russia is grappling with sanctions over its invasion of Ukraine.
They have a common problem, and that is sanctions. And Putin has really been leading what he considers and what he deems the war on the West and trying to create a multipolar system and sort of upend or create an alternative to a US-led world order. North Korea is also under sanctions. And the 2 have offered each other, political and moral support in trying to resist sanctions.
Those sanctions have left Russia facing a continued shortage of weapons. The Kremlin is expected to seek ongoing support for Russia's offensive in Ukraine. And in exchange, it's believed North Korea will seek high-technology expertise for its spy satellite system, ballistic missiles and nuclear submarines. Kim Jong Un and Vladimir Putin are expected to release joint statements after their meeting, as deepening divisions with the Western world push these 2 nations closer together. Dolphine Chen and Rosie Greninger for TaiwanPlus.
For more on the strengthening relations between Pyongyang and Moscow, TaiwanPlus reporter Louise Watt spoke to Anton Sokolin, data correspondent at NK News, a Seoul-based news website.
How close are Russia and North Korea getting? Putin's recent visit to North Korea speaks volumes of their growing partnership. This past year has been extremely interesting in terms of new developments around North Korea and Russia. We've heard lots of talks about North Korean arms, weapons, missiles, and artillery shells getting to first to Russia and then ending up in Ukraine. There's been a whole number of different delegations visiting North Korea from Russia. There's been a lot of humanitarian exchanges, and definitely we are seeing that their ties are growing, and they look like they're going to develop even further.
Does this mean that North Korea is moving closer to Moscow than its traditional major ally, which is Beijing?
Historically, yes, maybe North Korea has been historically more allied with China, but at the same time, North Korea has developed a whole arsenal of techniques to actually balance its relationship with both states, Russia, formerly the USSR, and China, to get its own advantage. And in this particular situation, yes, we are seeing the rapprochement with Russia. We are seeing lots of reciprocal moves that signal their growing partnership. But we are also seeing that both states do not want to upset China too much. For example, Putin, before arriving in North Korea, he actually went to one of Russia's regions in the Far East, and he preferred not to go to the DPRK directly from China. And in recent weeks, he actually traveled to China and met with Xi Jinping, and he didn't go directly to North Korea. And even now, even though he's in North Korea right now, he's also said to visit Vietnam. I think Putin doesn't want to attach too much meaning to North Korea and put it on a par with China, because that would actually probably be considered a bit challenging as a challenge to China.
How likely is it that Russia will help North Korea to develop its nuclear program?
We are seeing that Russia, nor actually China, would want to see nuclear weapons in North Korea, and probably they would prefer to either strong arm or to softly influence North Korea into not having those. Adding another nuclear state to the nuclear club is a very dangerous risk. North Korea is a de facto nuclear state. The only way Russia can mitigate the existence of a neighbor that possesses nuclear weapons is by not aiding, at least, the development of its nuclear program.
There was Anton Sokolin, an analyst at NK News, talking to Louise Watts. Taiwan is seeing a surge in COVID infections. The Centers for Disease Control reported over 600 new cases in the past week. That's double the number from the week before. 2 infants under the age of 1 experienced severe complications but are now in stable conditions. Both are too young to be vaccinated. The CDC is encouraging people to get the latest XBB jab, as infections are expected to keep surging over the summer.
目前还是认为应该是8、9月的时候会到高峰。那至于什么时候会下降，那大概是9月以后。
American tech giant Nvidia has overtaken Microsoft as the world's most valuable company. The chipmaker's stock market value surpassed $3.3 trillion on Tuesday. It comes just days after it overtook Apple as the second most valuable company. Demand for Nvidia's chips has surged as it continues to outpace competitors in a race to build AI capabilities. The company is setting up its first Asia-based R&D center in Taiwan and has announced plans to build a headquarters here as well. Stay tuned to TaiwanPlus News. Coming up after the break, a rare conviction for drug killings in the Philippines. Could it lead to more?
Explore the vibrant world of Taiwanese factories. Where skilled craftsmen and their expert hands have shaped industries. Join us in celebrating the artisan spirit and relentless pursuit of excellence. Viva la Vita, every Thursday at 7 p.m. on TaiwanPlus.
Welcome back. You're watching TaiwanPlus News. Rescue efforts are underway across southern China after days of heavy rain triggered widespread floods. Officials say at least a dozen people have died and more than 35,000 have been forced to evacuate. The floods have destroyed $225 million worth of crops. Chinese President Xi Jinping has called for all-out rescue efforts to save lives and property. 4 police officers have been found guilty of homicide in drug-related killings in the Philippines. The officers were sentenced to up to 10 years in jail for shooting a father and son in Manila during a police operation in September 2016. The killings were part of former President Rodrigo Duterte's controversial drug war. Human rights groups say tens of thousands of people were killed during the crackdown. The International Criminal Court is now investigating the campaign. To learn more about the conviction, Harel Hughes spoke to attorney Christina Conti, one of the lawyers involved in the case, and a Secretary General of the National Unions of People's Lawyers in Manila.
The War on Drugs campaign was started by former President Duterte in 2016. Can you tell us, is it still going on?
Yes, actually, we're in the last phase of Auckland Double Barrel. It's called Auckland Double Barrel Finale. They tell us that this is a different approach, but essentially the Marcos administration has adopted the same guidelines, the same principles under Auckland Double Barrel, or what we almost know more colloquially as Tokhang. And so, if we're talking about killings, they continue. If we're talking about arrests, they continue.
The government officially recognizes 6,000 people killed in this campaign, but human rights groups say it's actually much higher, that it's up to 30,000 people that have been killed. Do we expect this conviction to open the door for more?
It becomes really very difficult to procure not only documentary evidence, which should be available for the 6,000, but also object evidence for all the rest. For the 6,000, you should have documentation because these were quote-unquote legitimate police operations. But for the thousands others, up to 30,000 ended up dead in this war on drugs. Who else has this kind of documentation or evidentiary requirements? And we've seen in several other cases that is how the prosecutors tend to look at these cases. Whoever fired the fatal shot should be taken to account. Whoever was on ground closest to the victim, shot at the victim, should be taken to court, but not all the others. And that is our problem. In all these incidents.
The War on Drugs campaign is also being investigated by the International Criminal Court. Who will be at the center of that case, and what can we expect from it?
Okay. Rodrigo Duterte will likely be the main target of this case, of the trial, because in the investigation, I'm sure the ICC will have found out that he must be considered the most responsible, or the one who bears the greatest responsibility. It was during his campaign, the presidential campaign, even before he sat as president, when he promised death. So the Christmas before the elections, he wishes everybody Merry Christmas to the criminals, to the crooks, to the drug addicts. This will be your last Christmas. And it was chilling because he was promising death in such an insidious manner. And when the deaths came, for the people, for me even, there was no other conclusion except that Duterte is responsible for his killings.
That was Harel Hughes speaking with Christina Conti, head of the National Union of People's Lawyers in Manila. Taiwan won its first Olympic medal in badminton at the Tokyo Games in 2021. The men's double team that took gold were breakout stars. Now they're looking to do it again in Paris this summer. Leslie Liao has more.
Taiwan's first ever Olympic medal in badminton was won by these two, Wang Chi-lin and Li Yang. The cherry on top, it was a gold. Wang and Li rose from relative obscurity and climbed all the way to the top of the Olympic podium in the men's doubles at the Tokyo Games in 2021. The two are junior high school classmates and have a chemistry that reflects their history.
没有打架，我打不赢。
但是我也今天不跟他吵，因为我也吵不赢。
Wang and Li had a breakout performance in Japan. Though they entered the Tokyo Games unseeded, their path to victory was paved with upsets. On their way to gold, the pairs ranked first, second, and fourth in the world at the time all fell to the duo. Then, in the final round, they beat former world champions Li Junhui and Liu Yuchen of China. The Chinese pair challenged the final point of the gold medal match, which was ruled in Wang and Li's favor. The ruling resulted in this iconic image, marking where their shot landed. It was printed on merchandise including face masks and t-shirts, becoming a cultural phenomenon back home in Taiwan. Wang and Li's win wasn't just historic for Taiwan, it set an Olympic precedent. The pair became the first ever unseeded men's doubles team to go all the way at the Games. Overnight, Wang and Li became the team to beat, and their competitors started to train specifically to beat them.
我们被针对了之后，我们经历了很多低潮。
After Tokyo, Li and Wang would not win another title for 2 years. This put a strain on their relationship as they struggled to work through that slump.
奥运过后，毕竟我们也经历了一大段低潮，那中间过程也当然经历了很多次争吵吧。毕竟彼此对羽球的价值观跟羽球的态度也一直拿出来去做讨论，然后跟场上的一些搭配轮转默契也一直在去做磨合。那很高兴在去年的日本终于突破这个僵局，拿到冠军。
Now they're geared up and ready to go into Olympic action in Paris. They acknowledge it's a tough road back to the Games, but they're determined to make the best of it.
说没有压力是骗人的，但谁站上场上都是代表自己的国家，希望为自己国家夺下一面牌。所以我觉得每个人都有压力，只是怎么去克服而已。
Whatever happens, Wang and Li are aware that Paris will be their last Olympics as doubles partners. Li has announced he'll retire at the end of this year.
就是时候到了，该给年轻人一些机会。我觉得也29岁也打得蛮好，也比原本18岁可能那时候打不上来要退役的时候，我觉得也多打了11年。
Li's decision is tough for his partner, but Wang says he accepts it.
配了这么久，当然还是会觉得舍不得吧。毕竟一起奋斗这么从2019年一直打到现在。
No matter how Li and Wang do in Paris, they've made their mark on Taiwanese and Olympic history. Li's impending retirement marks a somewhat sudden end to their story, but it was an extraordinary moment in Taiwan's sporting history, one they're looking to repeat in Paris. Justin Wu and Leslie Liao in Kaohsiung for TaiwanPlus.
Taiwan star Taekwondo athlete Lai Ching-te is managing an injury ahead of her second Olympic Games. Cindy Chi found out how the Tokyo Olympic medalist's perseverance could bring her gold in Paris.
Featherweight Taekwondo fighter Lai Ching-te is full of surprises. In 2021, she seemingly came out of obscurity to win bronze at the Tokyo Olympics. Then 19, she was the youngest competitor from Taiwan to win an Olympic medal in Taekwondo in over 30 years.
比赛的当下结束，然后站上颁奖台的时候，我的心情其实都非常的完全没有想法，因为我脑中一直就告诉我自己说，我是真的得铜牌了吗？
Luo wasn't the only one surprised by her performance.
那时候真的是没有预想到她，因为太年轻了。 而且又第一次打。
Although Luo's first Olympic win came early, she was tipped for Taekwondo glory from a young age. She has trained relentlessly for years, first under her father at his dojo, and now as part of Taiwan's national team, officially competing under the name Chinese Taipei.
我们有一次是在做斜坡训练，那他就有一点跑不上去的那种感觉。 那当下我就在路边捡了一根竹子在后面追，然后我说追到了我就打你这样子。他是边跑边哭，但是确实跑得比我更快。
At 183 centimeters tall, it gives her a reach advantage over most of her opponents, but also means she has to cut a lot of weight to compete in the 57-kilogram division. Now, at 22 years old, the day-to-day grind of training and losing weight has taken a toll on her body.
去年我一整年参加了10几个比赛，等于我要降10几次体重，所以我的骨密度那些就是骨质其实都有比较偏低的一个状况。 对，所以现在就是营养品吃很多。
Luo's health became an issue while she was competing in the World Taekwondo Grand Prix in 2023. Mid-tournament, she felt a sharp pain in her rib, but chose to fight through it.
他就跟防务员要了2颗止痛药，就吃止痛药就上去了。可那一场就完全没办法，然后后来是真的是没办法用走了下来，他就是用爬的，我们上去把他抱下来，然后轮椅推出来以后，回来台湾检查，又是肋骨骨裂。
In the run-up to Paris 2024, Luo continues to compete while undergoing treatment for her injury. For Luo and her team, the temporary agony is a small price to pay for another shot at Olympic glory.
不能不打，因为不打就没有了。就是你在这个伤势上怎么样与伤势共存，然后还可以比赛。
Luo is determined to persevere through her injury and be in peak condition when she steps onto the mat in Paris this summer.
希望自己有更好的成绩嘛，尽可能的去把自己的心态去放松，然后去调整好，一样去用享受的感觉去这场比赛。
Grit, determination, and perseverance have been the hallmarks of Luo's career so far. It would be no surprise if these qualities carry her once more to the podium in Paris this summer. Kamashu and Sani Chi for TaiwanPlus.
Stay tuned to TaiwanPlus all this week as we highlight Taiwan's Olympic hopefuls. Thank you for watching TaiwanPlus News. You can visit the TaiwanPlus website or follow our social media for more stories from Taiwan and around the world. Finally, check out 2 koalas named Brumby and Willem making their public debut at a zoo in Illinois. They have been settling into their new home last week. I'm Betty Chen. Take care and see you next time.